Okay, so at this point, I want to actually refactor this project to use TANstack start so I can invoke this script that we generated, that we created from an API endpoint or like a TANstack server function. But before I dive into doing that, I think restructuring the code a little bit so that we have more of like a monorepo approach so that I can still invoke my script with the CLI, or I can invoke it with an API endpoint. Let's do a little bit of refactoring here. I want you to refactor my project to use like a monorepo approach so that I can eventually bring in a TANstack start application, which will invoke my generate script from a REST API endpoint. But also I want to be able to run my application with a CLI tool and figure out a way to look through my code and restructure and refactor to pull whatever necessary code out into separate modules and libraries so that I can easily reuse this code in various different places. So hopefully this is a good enough prompt. I mean, you could probably spend a lot more time really fine-tuning what you want. I'm hoping we'll get like an apps and a libs folder, and it should hopefully put all of the script related stuff inside of like a generate lib. And then also in the apps folder, maybe there'll be like a CLI that we can invoke. Now it is looking at TANstack start docs. I did not really want it to start doing TANstack start, but maybe it's fine. Looks like it's making a packages / services with OpenAI, 11 Labs, and FFmpeg. Okay. And then it's going to try to go through and refactor everything to start using that. All right, so let's look at the top level plan. So current state, okay, target structure. This is the important part. We got a packages, types, modules, lib, and services and core. And then for services, we have app, apps, CLI, and web, which will be the TANstack start. So overall, I mean, this is exactly what I kind of just described in my head of what I would want this to kind of look at or look like. I'm not really sure what, the services and lib stuff is for, but I think we're fine just trying to kick this off and see how it works. So this is an overview of how the dependencies kind of work. Web and CLI both use core. Core is going to use services. Services use libs and models and types. Model registry. Yeah, okay. So, I mean, we could probably just kick this off and make sure that everything still works after running this. All right, so it looks like the initial plan is done. If you read through this, it says next steps for REST API, add a post API generate in the web app, add a server route. So what I'm going to first try to do, I'm going to just npm run dev to see if the TANstack start app will run. It's not loading, so I think I need to just reprompt this. Make sure I can do npm run dev, which will run the TANstack start application from the top directory of this project. Oh, they do have a dev web here, so I think I just need to do dev. So we'll do it again. Make sure it runs. Click this. And it's showing the TANstack start application. So we're going to go back over here. And we could probably just stop this, honestly. We're going to make a new agent. So we have a clear context window. And we're going to say, on the home page of my TANstack start application, add a text area and a submit button. And when a user submits the form, use the information they provided to invoke my generate library command, pass in the prompt with some default arguments. We want to just default it to use grok. 720p is the default. 10 seconds duration is the default. What other things can we do? When invoking the script, I want you to use a TANstack server function. Look up the TANstack start docs to how to actually create a server function and invoke that instead of doing a REST API. In the UI, make sure you show a spinner until it's done generating. And when the video is done, I want you to then show a new route which has access to view the video. When we are trying to read and write to disk, I want you to abstract that around one layer of abstraction so that later on I can switch that to R2 or S3 via a environment variable so that none of my web application code is coupled to how it's being stored or retrieved from disk or remote storage. Those are some of the key things we should do. And also, like, just to save some potential money, I don't know if we want to run grok every time. Like, we could probably have a mock that just doesn't actually do this logic. I think this is fine. Let's just run this. Again, start small. Do a plan so it can kind of figure out our code and then hopefully create that server function to invoke that generate command. All right, looks like the plan's done. Let's just go ahead and read through this real quick. So the architecture is, this might be kind of small to see, so maybe I can expand it. Okay. And here's an overview of the design, the architecture. It's kind of annoying how like it selects the text when I try to do this. Cursor needs to fix that. But anyway, we have the client. The client has a home page. It calls generate video server function. That calls core, which then calls an abstraction to figure out where to read and write to disk or R2 or wherever. And then later on, when that's done, it navigates to a view video route, which then uses get video URL server function, which uses the abstraction. So I think this is a pretty good first iteration. It seems like it's pretty abstracted away from like how it all kind of works. We still don't have a database yet, which is fine. We're going to try to just get this working without a database, and later on we'll add in Drizzle and probably get this going. So while this is running, I'm going to kick off another one. I need you to set up shadcn inside my TanStack start project, including Tailwind and whatever else we need with shadcn. But just kick off a plan there so we can kind of get that going. I will need shadcn, I will need Drizzle. Like I need to use a database at some point to track the videos that people are generating, the progress and status of these generation jobs, stuff like that. Again, I'm going to try to get this hopefully all deployed to Railway, containerized. But we'll have to kind of reevaluate how that'll scale, because if you have like 10 people kick off a video generation at the same time, the one area that you need to focus on is the FFmpeg, which really uses a bunch of CPU. And so you don't want 10 concurrent runs to bog down the entire container. So we will have to either add in some type of queue system so that we don't have a bunch of FFmpegs running at the same time, or we have to scale this out horizontally to have multiple containers that can process this. But as far as like, I mean, if you don't have any users, don't worry about it yet. If you do plan to have a ton of users, you should probably be using something that scales out infinitely, like Cloudflare Workers or Lambda. There's ways to run those in containers too. Anyway, so we have storage type. Local's the default. We have R2 and S3 output base. Okay. So hopefully everything should be good. I will just allow this to kind of fetch from TanStack start, but we should be able to go back over here, a video topic. I'll say an educational video about how Play-Doh is made. I think that's how you spell Play-Doh. But we could go ahead and try to kick off this generation. I don't think I have much money left on my FAL account to even do this, so I might have to like go figure out where it's defaulting to use Grok and change it to WAN. Web stream, create node, get local path. All right, well, here's the generate function. I think somewhere in here it's probably hard coding to use Grok. Yeah, I'm going to say WAN, just so it's super cheap. And do I have like IntelliSense? I don't. Yeah, so there's some typing things that we should probably improve. Like right now, we have 720p, which is great, but like for the model, there's no IntelliSense or auto-completion there, so I might actually just kick off something there. I'm noticing that there's no type completion for when I try to run the models. I'll just go ahead and copy this line. I would expect all of my supported models to show up as types here. Another issue right here, there's like a hard-coded output directory. This isn't going to work if we're trying to run it remotely, I don't think. Like we should probably use like a temp directory, so I might even refactor that too. Let me go ahead and read through this plan. Root cause, the model's object is typed as this with record string model handler, TypeScript. Okay, that's fine. shadcn, I'm going to go ahead and run that too. That should be done. But we should get WAN. Okay, now we have WAN that we can actually run. I will go ahead and kick off another agent here. I don't like how this is hard-coded. I don't like how we have like a path.join here. If this is running locally versus remotely, I shouldn't use the current working directory. It should be configurable. For example, I should be able to specify a working directory for where all these files get outputted to. When running locally, though, I think it is fine to use the output directory, but this needs to be more configurable via a environment variable. And then just so it doesn't forget about it, I'm going to go ahead and just also paste storage, save video. What is storage anyway? Where's that coming from? Create storage. Create storage, that comes from here. Yeah, I don't know. My auto completion's not. Let's see. Oh, it looks like it already has an output base path. So that's kind of problematic. That technically this should not even be knowing about this. Let me go back. Hold on. Output directory. This should not know about this. I'm actually going to redo this. Paste that in. I don't think this generate function should know about the output directory. That's something that was abstracted away from the storage layer. So having this actually know about where the output directory doesn't seem correct. I would expect this to go away. And then also I would expect this storage save video. Like, why does it need a final path? It should know where the final path is. Okay, solution get add output directory for run string to storage layer so it generates a function ask storage to write instead of constructing the path itself. Okay. Current leaky abstraction generate video hardcode's output path. Okay. Yeah, I'll go ahead and just do a quick fix on that one. But it's this type of stuff when you're reading through the code, like you need to have nice layers of abstraction and understand that, okay, this is like business logic. It shouldn't know about where on disk your stuff is getting stored. Like when the final video is done, why should this thing know about it? It shouldn't need to know about it. You should just call the storage object because that could be stored in disk. It could be stored in R2. It could be stored anywhere. So you need to look out for that stuff and just do refactorings along the way. Okay, so hopefully this works. We're going to go back to here. Make an educational video teaching about Play-Doh. Play-Doh and how it's made. Okay, let's just go ahead and generate the video and see what happens. So we are missing some keys here. So I might have to go back and probably edit my video so you won't see my keys. But those should have already been created somewhere. Yeah, I just had to put .env files here, I believe, because it's running from this location. An educational video about Play-Doh. See what happens. So it looks like it's trying to do something. Over here it says generating the script. And hopefully this all works. It should be outputting into the output directory still. Okay, so here's our run. We got the run config. All this stuff is still working as it was before. Generating the text to speech, saving it. Okay, it's building the captions. Now, one thing I am curious about, this spinner showing, but I'm not sure how it's going to know when it's done. Like, is this just like a network request that's never ending? I'm pretty sure it's just sitting here waiting. So like there might be a long-lived HTTP request here, a TCP request, and then I don't know if this will time out at some point. So I may have to look into long polling or some other approach. I'll keep that in mind in the back of my head. Or even use WebSockets so we can actually get like live updates when stuff finishes. But I will say WebSockets adds another layer of like complexity of how to send the message back to the right person. All right, looks like they failed. I'm really not sure why these are timing out after 300 seconds. And there's nothing in the prompt that would cause it to have like a security content violation. Because I mean, it's just a close-up shot of Play-Doh. But there's something definitely going wrong here. Maybe Foul AI is having connectivity issues, or maybe the model I'm using is just having some issues or something. But I do feel like maybe there's not enough information. We could also just grab some of this stuff and try to figure out like what might have been going on here. It seems like I got a timeout error after 300 seconds. Is there any more console logs you could add to help us figure out what went wrong? And then also, I'm probably going to have to kick off another run. So let's find generate. And then we are going to actually do 480p. See here what was added to help debug. We have some submission logs, polling progress. Okay. Timeout details, explicit failed. And so hopefully that'll help us out, but I'm going to go ahead and just like run this again over here. Let me actually stop this. Hold on. I noticed that the default voice, this does not seem proper. So I'm actually going to check this real quick. Is this the proper default voice? I'm pretty sure I have to use voice IDs. Using the title string is correct. The pipeline is designed to accept either the title or 11 Labs voice ID. Okay, I guess so. Oh, I guess it was fine. Let's just go ahead and run it and see what happens. A educational video about Play-Doh. Yeah, I will say I don't like how this is like going to be a long running request. I think having some type of polling with status would be better. So while this is trying to run, instead of having a long running waiting request when we're generating this video, can you instead implement a polling solution so that we can periodically fetch the status? So after someone tries to generate their original video, I want you to redirect them to a status page, which has a nice visual indicator for all the steps it's going through. And those steps will highlight in green as they're being finished, yellow if they're being currently worked on, and gray if they haven't been started yet. And then as it goes through all these steps, when it gets to the final one and finishes, redirect to the actual video page. To implement the polling and treating the status or tracking the status, make sure you add a layer of abstraction of where these statuses are stored and read from, so that I can later point that to either in-memory storage, or I can point it to a Postgres database table if I want to. Nowhere should know about like how this data is actually stored. And also just go ahead and archive everything after. Okay, so the run is still going. We now have a little bit of better logs about what's going on. So poll number 1, it's all in queue. All these things are in queue right now. Hopefully we'll get back a request of when they're actually processing. All right, they're all in progress. Go ahead and look at this. What's changing over here? Status storage abstraction run, status storage interface, in-memory implementation, Postgres stub. Okay, backend. It creates run in status store, fire run in background, generate video, runs in run ID, status, every 2 to 3. Okay, so I think the core thing to see here is that I think when we call generate video, it's passing in like an on progress callback. And then that hopefully is actually just storing the status somewhere. Yeah, run options on progress. So we'll get the step back and the status of it, which then we can use to write that data somewhere. So I think that's a really good abstraction. We're basically doing argument injection, or just a normal callback to get status updates. So I think that should be pretty good. Now it looks like these videos are completing. I don't know why the first one failed. The first video got like locked up. Must have been just a foul AI issue. Going back, we can actually see the video over here.
Cleaner. Teachers used it for art, sales
pretty
exploded.
Cool. Yeah, let's go back and try it again. So I'm going to just add everything. I mean, we have like the application is actually working. I will say that I don't like how there's like .js files committed everywhere. So I may actually do a plan to figure that out. It seems like there's a bunch of dist folders with .js files. Can you figure out why we need that? If the entire application is written in TypeScript, why do we even need to build JavaScript files? Like this should all just import the proper TypeScript files for this to work, right? Okay, it looks like we might need them, but what I'm going to do is just ignore them. All right, well then can you just git ignore them? All right, so let's just go through here, make sure this is all good. Seems pretty good. Just go ahead and add them all. Do a commit here. And then we can kick off our little status refactoring here. All right, so it looks like this is done. We could test it out. I'll just say an educational video about how pencils are made. And then we can kick this one off. We go back to a status page. We can kind of watch through this, generating the script. It'd be nice if this actually had some type of like spinners on it, but I think this is fine. Now it might be cool to actually see how like the metadata about how many videos it's generating when those individual video segments finish. How long the video is estimated to be. I think that'd be pretty cool to see on a status page here, but maybe we can leave that for another video. Again, the model I'm using is like a low quality model. But yeah, I think this is good. I mean, we have a web UI now generates the videos. We have a status progress indicator on the that when it's generating the videos. And we've done a decent amount of refactoring to make sure that stuff is abstracted properly. I would probably spend more time going through here and reviewing the code, but I think we're good. This is a good next progression and next iteration of what we're trying to build out. Yeah, I think that's about it. So hope you guys enjoyed, and stay tuned for the next video whenever I decide to make it. Have a good day. Happy coding.